Hi everyone, this is a new series where I'll be teaching different aspects of guitar playing and music in general as part of my final year project for university. I'll have more details about that in the About section of my channel if you're interested. In this video, I thought we'd deal with something really straightforward as it's the first video and look at some of the very basics of playing the guitar. If you already play a bit of guitar, you might not find this video massively useful, but hopefully there's something in there that you can pick up and take away from it. Apologies if there's any background noise, there's some construction work going on next door and there's people going about the business downstairs, so hopefully that's not too distracting. I'm going to put this out there first and so that I don't sound like a broken record later, but most of the things I'm teaching in this lesson are not the correct way of doing things. There's no hard and fast way. It's just a case of experimenting and see what works with you. So first things first, it's important to make sure that your guitar is in tune. The notes on a standard tuned guitar from low to high are E, A, D, G, B, and another E. So I want you to go back in this video and try and tune your guitar to mine. Start below the note and turn the tuning peg slowly until the note starts to raise and until it hits the correct pitch. If you're willing to spend a little bit of money, you can get a clip-on tuner similar to this one here, and that is a great help when it comes to tuning your guitar. It's right there. All you need to do is play the note and it'll tell you whether you need to turn the tuning peg higher or lower. Alternatively, if you don't want to spend any money, there's a ton of free tuning apps out there that will get the job done for you and it'll keep you playing in tune. I'm going to briefly mention posture here, and that refers to how you hold the guitar. We'll just look at being sat down for now, but it is important to note that if you're going to be standing up and playing the guitar, it's a very different beast, so that's something to practice separately. There's plenty of articles and other videos out there that outline a very strict posture for how you hold the guitar while you're playing. But really, as long as it's comfortable and you're not doing anything that's going to cause you injury, like bending your wrist right down or something, you'll manage just fine. Like any kind of physical activity, playing the guitar can cause injury if you're not warmed up enough. Most people tend to warm up with a handful of simple exercises, but it can be worthwhile just making sure you're nice and loose in your arm and your wrists. You can try rolling your wrists, stretching them back slightly, don't go too far or you will hurt yourself, or just shaking your arms out to make sure you're feeling nice and loose. So now that we've got rid of any excess tension, let's move on to what your picking hand will be doing. For this video I'm going to be focused on using a guitar pick, although there are many fantastic players that only use the fingers. It's a preference thing and it's definitely worth experimenting with. Conventional wisdom will have you hold your guitar pick like this, with your finger curled underneath, your thumb pressing down on top, and you want as little of the point showing as possible. This is something that you can experiment with. It's definitely a feel thing. It's something that's easily changed down the line. Most guitar picks are reasonably cheap, so it's well worth going into your local music store and just grabbing a handful of different shapes, sizes and thicknesses and messing about with them until you find one that you like the feel of the most. In terms of picking the strings, you want to position yourself like this, with your arm coming away from the strings at about a 45-degree angle, and your wrist wants to be fairly straight. When we pluck a string, we want the motion to come from our wrist, not our arm. You want to move your wrist in the direction of the string and push the pick almost through the string. It's often helpful to angle your pick slightly in order to help it glide over or through the strings. If you try experimenting with different angles, you should notice a different sound or attack. This is one thing that players use to add expression to their playing. If you're playing multiple strings, chords for example, the motion is slightly different. Here we use our wrist and arm in tandem, turning your wrist slightly and moving your forearm in the direction that you're picking. Now let's move on to our fretting hand. For the most part, you want to wrap your hand around the neck like this with keeping your wrist reasonably straight and having your thumb lay on top of the neck, a bit like this. To start with, a good rule to follow is one finger per fret. Here I am at the 5th position, and for every note on the 5th fret, I'm going to use my first finger. Every note on the 6th fret, I'm going to use my second finger, and so on, and so forth. This isn't a hard and fast rule, and in fact lots of professional guitarists will only use their first 3 fingers unless they absolutely have to use the 4th. I'd recommend practicing with all 4 because, to me, the more fingers you have available, the better. When we approach the fret, we want to come in like this. We want our finger to not quite be perpendicular with the strings, and we want to aim for having the tip of our finger as close to this fret wire here as possible without it being on top. If you have it too close or on top, you get choking and other nasty noises. And if it's too far away, the note can go out of tune. A bit of good practice here that you don't necessarily need to do right from the beginning, but you want to try and use the finger you're fretting with to mute the 2 strings either side while still being able to sound the note that you're aiming for. Again, it's not entirely necessary now, but it can be super useful later on if you work on it now and carry it forward later. Now that we understand some of the very fundamentals of playing the guitar, I'll leave you with this exercise, which is not only great for warming up, but later on you can use it to help build speed. You want to start with your first finger on the 1st fret of the low E string, pick the note, move up to the 2nd fret of the low E string with your 2nd finger, pick the note, 3rd fret with your third finger, 4th fret with your 4th finger, and once you've reached that, you want to move up to the next string and repeat the pattern, and so on. Once you make it to the 4th fret of the high E string, you want to descend in a 4-3-2-1 pattern. I'd recommend practicing this exercise every day for a short while and you'll see massive improvements in no time. Go very slowly at first. Trying to play faster than you're able to is not only poor practice, but it can be very discouraging when you mess up. Once you start getting the hang of this, start to mess around with it. Try leaving all of your fingers depressed as you ascend. Like this. Change the order of your fingers, for example 1, 3, 2, 4. Once you hit the highest note, try sliding up a position before you're descending from 4 to 5 and descend like this. If it's too hard for you to begin with, try moving closer to the 12th fret where the frets are a bit close together. This should help you and you'll find it a bit easier. That about covers everything I wanted to get into this first video. The following few videos in this series are going to stick to more beginner orientated material and they'll start to ramp up in difficulty a little bit further down the line. Hopefully you found something I've said to be useful, and if so, feel free to like and subscribe to this channel because any feedback I get is helpful for my project, especially comments, and hopefully it's all been good and I'll see you next time.